Glazing charts look awesome and they're really satisfying to make, but they're also really useful for figuring out how your paints will look once they're layered up. There are a few different ways to make these charts. I'm going to show you two, but we're going to start with my favourite. Here's the kit you'll need: a board, watercolor paper, your paint, a pencil and ruler, a flat brush, water, and some thin masking tape. 5 or 6mm will do it. You can find the tape in most craft stores or on Amazon. The second method of making a glazing chart does not require the tape, but in my opinion it doesn't look as good. 12 steps to making your glazing chart. Number 1. Draw the template. I feel that anything less than about 1 centimetre squared is not big enough to get a good sense of the colour. So I'm marking off 2 centimetre intervals on each side of a box, and the 6mm tape will take up, well, 6mm of that. If you want to save yourself some time, you can download the template we've made for this, using the link in the description below. There's a template for both A4 and A5 sheets of paper. Number 2. Stick the tape to the chart. It doesn't matter if you start horizontally or vertically. This is what you want it to look like when you're finished. Number 3. Sort out your colours. Your chart is going to look a lot more organised if there's some sort of order to your colours. I'm going to go light to dark, roughly. Number 4. Write the colours along both the horizontal and vertical axis. Number 5. Stick the paper to your board. Number 6. Mix your paints. Make sure they are diluted enough. If they're too thick, then a number of not great things may happen. They can dry patchy, or when you come to glaze over them they can easily be disturbed and just mix with a new paint, or they can end up too thick and not be transparent. Remember, you're doing this to see what the paints will look like when they're layered over one another, so they need to have a bit of transparency to them. Make sure you use clean water and clean your brush thoroughly between each colour. The last thing you want to do is mix the colours before you've even started. Number 7. Let's go! It's time to paint. Pick a direction to start with, horizontal or vertical, and paint each row or column with an even flat wash. Try not to go over it repeatedly, and don't leave any pooling, which could cause blooms or an uneven finish when dried. If you haven't watched our tutorial on the flat wash and you're not familiar with the technique, then check it out. It'll help you get this step exactly right. The link is in the description below. Number 8. Let the painting dry. If it's at all wet, then you'll end up mixing the paint instead of glazing, and you'll have to start again. Number 9. Paint in the other direction. This layer is much harder than the first layer. Don't use too much pressure and try to avoid going over the same area more than a few times, or you risk disturbing the previous layer of paint or causing the paper to pile up. Try to keep your wash as flat and even as possible. Painting the boxes individually definitely helps with this. Number 10. Once again leave the painting to dry. Number 11. And now for the magical reveal. Remove the tape carefully. Number 12. Make a note of which direction you painted the first glaze and which direction you painted the second. Why is this important? Well, here's the really cool thing about the chart. Different paints have different opacities, so depending on the order you layered the paints in, the resulting colour will be slightly different. For instance, I love the colour blue-green on this chart, which is the last row and last column. But if you check out cobalt over blue-green, it's quite a different colour from blue-green over cobalt. And the same is true for a ton of other colours as well, as you'll discover for yourself when you make your own chart. So there you have it. That's how to make a glazing chart. Looks stunning, right? But what if you don't have any tape? It's no problem. You can still use the templates or draw the box for yourself. You'll just need to draw in where the tape would go if you had it. Otherwise, you'll still need to follow all the steps laid out from the previous technique. The real advantage of doing things this way is that when you come to paint your second layer, it's much easier. You can see here how I can just paint straight across with no need to paint the boxes individually, and less worry about the paint being disturbed or mixing. The disadvantage of doing things this way is that the result is not as clear. Because the colours are all joined together, it's hard to view them in isolation and get an accurate idea of what the colour looks like on its own. Also, it doesn't look as cool, if you care about that sort of thing. I hope you've enjoyed watching this tutorial. If you have, hit subscribe, and if you've got any comments or suggestions, just pop them below. As always, thanks for watching, and sending happy vibes from Tokyo.